The Empire's Admiral screamed. A human battleship just decloaked. The stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky, each one a tiny spark in the cold emptiness of space. The Zaltrax Empire's fleet glided through this void in perfect formation, every ship sleek, black, and shining with the pride of 1,000 years of conquest. Admiral Vorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, a giant vessel that towered over the others. He was tall and stern, his uniform crisp and decorated with symbols of authority. He had faced many enemies in his life, but today something felt different. "Admiral," said Commander Lyra, his voice tight with tension. "Sensors are picking up an anomaly, something unusual." Vorn's eyes narrowed as he stared at the main screen. He had seen many readings in his time, but this one was strange. A faint blip appeared in the distance, moving in ways that no ship should be able to move. It flickered in and out, almost like it was hiding, yet somehow powerful. "Is it a scout ship?" Vorn asked, his voice low and sharp. "No, sir," Lyra said, shaking her head. "It doesn't match any known design. It doesn't even look like it belongs in this sector." Vorn frowned. The Empire was strong, and their sensors were the best in the galaxy. Anything that slipped past them had to be important. He leaned closer to the console, studying the readings. The blip was getting closer, and the fleet's formation began to tighten. Officers moved quickly around the bridge, checking their systems, adjusting weapons, and preparing for a possible attack. The bridge was tense, filled with the quiet hum of machines and the faint beep of alerts. Vorn's mind raced. The Zaltrax Empire had faced countless threats, but this felt different. There was no fear in the readings, no chaos. Instead, it was calm, almost like the blip was waiting, watching. Then, without warning, the screen changed. A ship appeared in full view, larger than any scout, larger than most battleships, and it was heading straight for them. It had just decloaked. Its shape was simple, nothing like the elegant curves of the Empire's vessels. It looked rough, practical, almost human. "Impossible," Vorn whispered. The entire bridge went silent. No one moved. Every officer stared at the screen, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. The human ship was not just visible, it was unafraid. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if it knew it would not be attacked. Lyra's voice was barely audible. It's human, sir." Vorn's face turned pale. Humans. The Empire had heard stories, but they had never faced them. Humans were supposed to be small, weak, and disorganized. They were a species that had barely left their own system a few centuries ago. And yet, here was a human ship, larger than many of their vessels, moving boldly into the heart of the Empire's fleet. "Signal them," Vorn ordered, his voice shaking slightly. "Open a communication channel. I want to know why they are here." "Yes, sir," Lyra replied, her fingers flying over the controls. The view on the screen flickered, and then a calm, confident voice filled the bridge. "I am Captain Daniel Harper of the human battleship Orion. I am here to protect my people. Stand down or be destroyed." Vorn felt his stomach tighten. The humans spoke with no fear, no hesitation. Their voice was calm, steady, but every word carried the weight of danger. It was not a threat shouted in anger. It was a promise made with confidence. Who gave them permission to enter this sector?" one of the junior officers asked, her voice trembling. Vorn slammed his hand on the console. "No one. This was unauthorized. This is an attack. Prepare weapons." But even as the order was given, the human ship did not move aggressively. It held its position, as if daring the Empire to strike first. The calmness of the human ship made the Zaltrax officers uneasy. They were used to fear in the face of humans. They were used to humans retreating, panicking, surrendering. But this one did not fear them at all. "Admiral," Lyra said, pointing at the screen, "they're maneuvering, but not in a way that makes sense. They're not attacking directly. They're moving between our ships, testing us." Vorn felt a cold sweat on his forehead. He had seen the tactics of countless alien species, studied the methods of every enemy the Empire had faced. But this This was new. The humans were unpredictable. They were bold. They were smart. "Shields up," Vorn shouted. "Weapons ready, don't fire unless I give the order." The bridge was chaos now, but the officers followed commands with military precision. The Empire's fleet was massive, and they had numbers, they had speed, they had firepower. And yet there was fear among them, fear of the unknown, fear of something they had never faced before. On the human ship, Captain Harper stood at his own bridge, calm as ever. His crew moved with quiet efficiency, issuing commands only when necessary. The Orion was not a large ship by Empire standards, but every part of it was functional. Every weapon, every shield, every engine was prepared for the fight. "Keep the course steady," Harper said. "Let them come. They'll underestimate us as always." Lieutenant Clara Hayes, his tactical officer, smiled slightly. "They won't know what hit them," Harper nodded. "They never do." Back on the Empire's flagship, Vorn's sensors suddenly went haywire. The human ship had vanished, or at least it seemed to have. The readings flickered, then appeared on the other side of the fleet. The humans had moved without warning, appearing where no one expected them. "Impossible," Vorn screamed. "How did they?" "They're faster than our sensors can track," Lyra said, her voice tight. They're reading our moves before we make them." Vorn's mind raced. He had faced dozens of species, dozens of fleets, dozens of strategies. He had thought himself ready for anything. And yet this human ship had made him feel powerless. He had no plan, no idea what to do next. The Empire's fleet began to move cautiously, unsure of how to react. Every ship stayed alert, weapons aimed, shields up. But they did not attack. They could not attack. The humans had thrown them off balance in ways the Empire had never seen before. Harper watched it all from his bridge, calm and collected. He could see every move of the enemy fleet, but he did not need to rush. He did not need to panic. The humans had trained for this, studied the tactics of the galaxy's most dangerous powers, and now they were ready. "Maintain distance," Harper said. "Let them make mistakes. They always do." And the Empire did make mistakes. Ships moved too fast, weapons fired too early, shields faltered. Every error was noted by the humans, every opportunity used. And yet Harper did not strike immediately. The Orion was a protector, not a destroyer. They could have crushed the fleet in moments, but the humans wanted something more. Back on the Empire flagship, Vorn paced the bridge, furious and afraid. He had trained for war his entire life, and yet he felt helpless. His crew looked to him for guidance, for orders, for confidence. And yet he had none. The humans had arrived, and everything the Empire thought they knew about power, strategy, and fear had been challenged in an instant. "Signal them again," Vorn shouted. "Tell them to leave." "Tell them we will destroy them if they do," Lyra obeyed, opening a channel. The voice of Captain Harper returned, calm, patient, and unyielding. "We are not here to destroy unless necessary. Stand down. Do not make this fight yours to lose." Vorn stared at the screen, his hands clenched into fists. He wanted to scream, to attack, to assert his authority. And yet a small part of him, deep inside where pride and fear met, knew he had underestimated humans. He had thought them weak. He had thought them disorganized. He had thought them predictable, and he had been wrong. The human ship floated in the void, simple, unadorned, yet terrifying in its confidence. It had no fear. It had no doubt. And it had made the most powerful empire in this part of the galaxy feel small, uncertain, and exposed. Vorn took a deep breath, trying to regain control. "Prepare for battle," he said, his voice steady now, though his hands still trembled. "They will regret this." And for the first time in his life, Admiral Vorn wondered if the humans were not just another species to be conquered. Perhaps they were something more. Perhaps they were the beginning of a challenge the Empire had never faced and might not survive. The stars twinkled cold and bright, silent witnesses to the arrival of a human battleship that had just decloaked, and to the fear it had brought to the heart of the Zaltrax Empire. The Zaltrax Empire's fleet held its position in the cold emptiness of space, their ships forming a tight line of black and silver. Every officer waited, tense and alert. No one dared move too quickly. The human battleship Orion drifted calmly, almost lazily, as if time itself slowed around it. It had just decloaked, and already it had made the Empire uneasy. Yet it did not attack. It did not fire its weapons. It simply waited. On the bridge of the Orion, Captain Daniel Harper leaned against the console, his eyes scanning the Imperial fleet. His crew moved with quiet precision. Lieutenant Clara Hayes adjusted a display, tracking the Zaltrax ships as they shifted slightly, unsure how to respond. "Captain," Clara said softly, "they're trying to flank us, but their movements are messy. They don't have a plan, not a clear one. They're reacting to us, not acting on their own." Harper nodded. "Good, let them react. We learn faster than they do, and right now that is enough." Back on the Empire's flagship, Admiral Vorn's face was pale and his jaw clenched tightly. He had commanded fleets for decades, and yet this human ship had unsettled him completely. His officers whispered quietly to each other, unsure if they should follow orders or act on instinct. Vorn did not like being ignored, and yet the Orion seemed to mock his authority without saying a word. "Weapons ready," Vorn barked, trying to sound confident. "All ships target the Orion. Prepare to fire on my command." But the Empire's ships were not synchronized. Some aimed too high, some too low. Others hesitated, unsure if they should attack a ship that did not fit any known model. The Orion's hull gleamed faintly in the starlight, simple and rough, but it radiated strength. Harper watched calmly. "They think numbers win fights," he said. "They are wrong." Suddenly the Orion moved. Not forward, not toward them. It glided sideways, weaving between two massive Imperial cruisers appearing in their blind spot. Sensors flickered across the Zaltrax ships as they tried to track the movement. Some sensors failed completely. The Orion had moved faster than their systems could update. "Impossible," Admiral Vorn screamed. "How can it move like that?" "Sir," Commander Lyra said, voice tight with fear, "they're predicting our moves. It's as if they know what we will do before we do it." Vorn's hands shook as he slammed the console. He had faced fast ships before, but nothing like this. The Orion was small, simple, and yet far faster in its precision than the Empire's largest warships. The humans had studied them. They had anticipated every possible tactic, and now the fleet's confidence began to crumble. "Fire!" Vorn roared. Blasts of energy shot across space, streaking toward the Orion. The human ship did not panic. Its shields flared bright blue, absorbing the energy without a scratch. Then, with a slow, almost deliberate motion, it fired back. Not at all the Zaltrax ships at once, not wildly, but with calculated precision. A small Imperial cruiser erupted in flames, caught completely by surprise. Another ship's engines were damaged in the same instant. Chaos rippled through the fleet. Officers shouted, trying to regain control, but the humans were already several steps ahead. "Target weak points," Harper said calmly. "Don't waste energy on the rest. One strike is enough to show them we are not weak." The Orion moved again, weaving between ships, dodging blasts, striking where it needed to. Every action was precise, efficient. The humans were not reckless. They were clever, and the Empire was beginning to realize that sheer numbers would not save them. Vorn's fury turned to panic. He could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet was the pride of the Empire, and yet one single human ship was dismantling their confidence without even fully engaging. "Pull back," Vorn shouted to his fleet. "Regroup. Do not let them divide us." But the fleet was already faltering. Pilots hesitated. Some turned toward the Orion, some tried to retreat. The humans' calmness had shaken their discipline. They could no longer fight as one. Every mistake they made gave the Orion another advantage. On the Orion's bridge, Harper watched the readings. "They're scared," he said quietly. "Not of death, but of us. They've never seen a human fight like this, and they will remember it." Clara Hayes smiled faintly. They always think they are stronger than us, and yet here we are. The humans moved with such smooth coordination that it almost looked like a dance. The Empire's ships fired wildly, often missing entirely, while the Orion struck with precision. Small bursts of light and fire erupted across the battlefield as Imperial ships faltered one by one. Vorn gritted his teeth. He had underestimated humans, and now the mistake was costing him control of his fleet. Officers around him began murmuring, whispering doubts aloud. Some wondered if retreat was the wiser choice. Vorn did not want to believe it, but fear was spreading faster than orders could reach the ships. "Sir," one officer cried, "they're moving behind us, they're flanking again." "Impossible," Vorn said, voice shaking. "No ship can move that fast." "They're human," Lyra said softly. "Don't forget, they always find a way." Vorn pressed his hand to his face, breathing hard. He had studied humans for years, heard stories of their courage and strange tactics, but he had thought of them as inferior. And yet here they were, one ship standing against his fleet, moving with precision and intelligence that no Zaltrax could match. "Focus on the Orion," Vorn shouted, trying to regain control. "All firepower on that ship." But even as the command was given, the Orion had already moved again. Its shields flared, absorbing energy blasts from 3 directions at once. Then it fired again. A mid-sized destroyer exploded in a bright flash, sending debris spinning into space. Another cruiser had its weapons disabled. The humans were striking where it hurt most, not wasting energy on things that did not matter. Vorn's heart pounded. He could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet, trained for decades, with numbers and firepower far greater than a single ship, was falling apart under the calm, calculated moves of humans. Harper observed the chaos with a steady hand. "They will panic soon," he said to Clara. "We do not need to destroy them all. Just enough to show them we cannot be ignored." Clara nodded. "They always underestimate us." Meanwhile, in the heart of the Empire fleet, pilots began to disobey orders. Some tried to flee, others attempted risky maneuvers to escape the Orion's attention. The humans were clever, but they did not strike recklessly. Every move was measured, designed to teach a lesson, not to kill unnecessarily. Vorn watched helplessly as his pride and authority slipped away. He had built the greatest fleet in this sector, but he had faced nothing like this. Humans were small, simple, and yet their intelligence, courage, and daring made them far more dangerous than any Empire strategist could predict. "Signal them again," Vorn roared, voice tight with desperation. "Tell them to leave. Tell them the Empire will destroy them." The Orion did not reply immediately. Harper's voice returned after a moment, calm and clear. "We are not here to start war. Stand down. Leave and you will survive. Continue and you will learn why humans are not to be underestimated." Vorn's face twisted in anger. "They mock me," he whispered. The human ship floated between the Zaltrax vessels like a shadow, calm and untouchable. Every move they made was precise, calculated, and terrifying in its effectiveness. The Empire had never faced a species like this, not in hundreds of years of conquest. And now, one single human battleship had proven that numbers alone could not win a fight. The fleet began to scatter slightly, trying to regroup, but the humans had already predicted their moves. Every retreat was anticipated, every attack countered. The Orion did not need to strike the entire fleet. It only needed to show its power, and fear spread faster than lasers. On the Orion, Harper watched the fleet falter and smiled faintly. "They will remember this," he said. "They always do." Clara Hayes nodded, adjusting the course slightly. "Do we push them further?" "Not yet," Harper said. "We teach them restraint. Let them think they can survive. The lesson will stay with them longer that way." In the black void of space, the human ship drifted, calm, precise, and deadly without raising its weapons unnecessarily. The Empire's fleet, proud and strong, had been shaken to its core. Officers whispered, pilots panicked. and even Admiral Vorn began to question everything he thought he knew about war, strategy, and power. The Orion had not even fully fought yet. It had not needed to. One human ship, simple and unadorned, had shown the Zaltrax Empire that courage, intelligence, and daring could be stronger than any number of ships or weapons. And somewhere deep inside Admiral Vorn, a new fear was born. The fear that humans were not like other species, not weak, not disorganized, not predictable. Humans were something else entirely, something the Empire had never faced before. The stars sparkled silently around them, witnesses to the calm, unstoppable power of a single human battleship. The Orion had arrived, it had decloaked, and it had already changed the course of the battle. The Empire would never forget this day. The Zaltrax Empire's fleet was in chaos. Ships moved in confusion, some trying to follow orders, others breaking formation. Even the most experienced officers were unsure of what to do. The humans, one simple battleship, had thrown the mighty fleet into disarray without firing more than a few precise shots. On the bridge of the Empire's flagship, Admiral Vorn's hands clenched around the edge of the console. His face was pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. "Focus," he shouted. "We are the Empire, we will not fall to one ship, attack." But his voice carried little authority now. The fleet was fractured. Pilots hesitated, unsure if they should charge or retreat. Some ships had already begun to pull back slightly, instinct winning over obedience. The humans were clever, patient, and calm, and that calmness terrified the Empire's officers more than their weapons ever could. On the Orion, Captain Daniel Harper leaned against the console, eyes calm as ever. Lieutenant Clara Hayes adjusted the tactical display, keeping track of every Imperial ship. "They're scattered," she said softly. "Our plan is working." "They don't know how to fight a ship like ours," Harper nodded. "Let them think they are in control. That makes them easier to predict. Humans have always known how to turn fear into a tool." From the human ship, the movements were precise and almost slow, but deadly. Orion glided between two massive Imperial cruisers, dodging energy blasts that could have destroyed half its hull. Then, in an instant, it fired a small but carefully aimed shot at the cruiser's engines. Sparks and fire erupted as the massive vessel's movement slowed. "Another hit," Clara said quietly. "One of their best ships is down." Harper didn't smile. "We don't need to destroy them all, just enough to show them we are not weak." The Empire's fleet reeled at the destruction. Even the Zaltrax soldiers, trained to fight for their entire lives, could not believe what they were seeing. One ship after another faltered as Orion moved with calm precision. The humans were not reckless. They calculated every strike, every movement, every chance the Empire gave them to make a mistake. Vorn's fury grew. He had studied hundreds of species, learned their tactics, and commanded the greatest fleets in the sector. Yet here he was, watching one human ship dismantle his fleet with patience, precision, and skill he had never imagined. "Fire at will," Vorn roared. "Target every human weapon. Destroy that ship before it destroys more of us." But the fleet was disorganized. Some ships fired too early, wasting energy. Others hesitated, unable to trust their own sensors. The Orion, moving smoothly between attacks, picked the weak points. One shot, one precise strike, disabled a cruiser's shield generator. Another disabled a weapon system without damaging the hull. The humans were teaching the Empire a lesson. Fear could be more powerful than numbers. On the Orion, Harper watched calmly. "They are afraid," he said. "Not of us as humans, but of what we do." "They've never seen a species like ours," Clara nodded. "We've faced stronger fleets, but never one so unprepared for how we fight." The human ship did not strike blindly. It moved like a predator, observing, testing, and waiting. Orion weaved between ships, dodging attacks, while the Empire's fleet struggled to regroup. Every move the humans made seemed to anticipate the Empire's next command. Vorn's mind raced. He had fought wars across countless systems, led campaigns that had destroyed entire fleets, and yet he could not predict what the humans would do next. He had underestimated them. He had thought humans were weak, small, and disorganized, and he had been wrong. "Sir," one officer said, voice trembling, "they are faster than our ships can track. Their shields absorb energy without effort. They are impossible." "Impossible," Vorn repeated, gripping the console. "How can one ship do this?" "They are human," Lyra said softly. "They are not impossible. They are different, and different is dangerous." The Orion moved again, positioning itself perfectly between three Imperial ships. In a single, careful strike, two cruisers had their engines damaged. One destroyer had its weapon systems overloaded and temporarily shut down. Sparks flew, fire erupted, and the Zaltrax soldiers screamed in alarm. The humans had not even used full force yet. "Captain," Clara said quietly, "we could finish them now. We have the chance." Harper shook his head. "No, this is not about destruction. It is about showing them what humans are capable of. They will remember this day. They will never forget how we fight." The Empire's fleet was no longer in formation. Ships drifted in confusion, some trying to attack, others retreating. Officers argued with one another over commands, unsure who had the right to give orders. Fear had replaced discipline, and the humans observed it all without panic. "Sir," Lyra said, "their central command is trying to coordinate, but it's too late. They've lost control of the fleet." Vorn slammed his hand on the console. "I will not be humiliated. Attack them all." But the fleet could not. The Orion moved again, dodging three attacks at once, striking in ways that no one expected. Each strike was measured, precise, and efficient. The humans were showing that intelligence and courage could outweigh numbers and firepower. On the Orion, Harper studied the readings. "Notice how they panic when we move calmly. This is what makes humans different. They see fear and it changes everything." Clara glanced at the display. "We've only used a fraction of our power. Imagine if we did more." Harper shook his head. "No, that is not the lesson. Let them survive enough to see it clearly. They will learn faster than if we destroy them completely." The Empire's officers struggled to maintain order. Ships collided, fired at wrong targets, and failed to execute basic maneuvers. One cruiser fired at another, mistaking it for the Orion. Sparks flew and alarms blared as crew members tried to regain control. Fear had spread faster than any energy blast could. Vorn's face was pale. "They are mocking me," he whispered. "One ship, one human ship, and they mock everything we have built." The Orion moved again, weaving between ships, striking only where necessary, avoiding destruction of life when possible. The humans' control of the battle was complete. The Empire had the numbers, but the humans had the mind, the skill, and the courage to use it better. "Sir," Lyra said, "they are teaching us a lesson we cannot ignore. They are humans." Vorn's hands shook. He had underestimated humans for centuries. He had thought them primitive, weak, and disorganized. And he had been wrong. One human ship had turned his mighty fleet into chaos. One human ship had made him fear for the first time in his life. The Orion drifted through the chaos, calm, precise, and almost silent. Every action, every movement, every strike was measured. The humans were not reckless. They were clever, patient, and disciplined. And they had made the Empire realize that courage and intelligence could outweigh any advantage in numbers or firepower. On the human ship, Harper smiled faintly. "They will remember this. They will never forget." Clara nodded. "It is not about destroying them. It is about showing them what humans can do." The Empire's fleet was broken. Ships drifted in space, some damaged, some retreating, and all shaken. Officers whispered, pilots panicked, and even Admiral Vorn began to question everything he knew about strategy and power. Humans had arrived, decloaked, and in moments they had shown the Empire that they were not to be underestimated. The stars sparkled silently around them, witnesses to the calm and unstoppable force of a single human battleship. The Orion had not fully fought yet, and still, it had changed the course of the battle. One human ship had proven that courage, intelligence, and calm could defeat fear, numbers, and arrogance. Admiral Vorn sank into his chair, his mind racing. He had underestimated humans. He had assumed them weak, simple, and inferior. And he had been wrong. One human ship had shown him that humanity was something entirely new, something the Empire had never faced, and something that might one day challenge their entire dominance. The Orion drifted silently, victorious without shouting, undefeated without rage, and calm without fear. The Empire had learned its first lesson about humans: never underestimate them. And somewhere deep in the heart of Admiral Vorn, a new fear had taken root. The Zaltrax Empire's fleet was falling apart. Ships that had once glided proudly through space now drifted awkwardly, damaged and confused. Pilots shouted orders at each other, some ignored commands, and a few tried to flee the battlefield entirely. One human ship, simple, unadorned, and calm, had done what no one thought possible. It had broken the mightiest fleet in the sector without fully engaging in battle. On the bridge of the Orion, Captain Daniel Harper watched calmly as Imperial ships floundered. Lieutenant Clara Hayes adjusted the tactical display, tracking every movement. "They're trying to regroup," Clara said quietly. "But they're too late. Their formation is gone." Harper nodded. "Let them try. Humans don't panic easily, but they understand patience. We've trained them well. They will break before they recover." The human ship moved with smooth precision. It glided between two cruisers, then reversed course to dodge blasts coming from behind. Every maneuver was calm and deliberate, like a predator playing with its prey. On the flagship of the Empire, Admiral Vorn's hands shook as he looked at the display. Ships exploded, engines failed, weapons malfunctioned. The fleet was in chaos. Even his most trusted officers looked at him with fear in their eyes. Why are they so good?" Vorn whispered. "How can one ship do this?" "They are humans, sir," Commander Lyra said quietly. "They think differently, they fight differently, and it scares them and us." Vorn slammed his fist on the console. "We will not be humiliated. Focus your fire, target that ship and destroy it now." But the Empire could not focus. Their fleet was scattered. Some ships fired too early, wasting energy. Others fired in panic, hitting nothing. And the Orion moved calmly, striking only where it mattered. One precise shot disabled a cruiser's shield generator. Another hit a destroyer's engine, leaving it drifting helplessly. The humans were not reckless. They were careful, calculated, and deadly. "Captain," Clara said, "they're trying to attack us from behind. 3 cruisers are coming for us." Harper didn't panic. "Good, let them try. We will teach them another lesson." Orion changed course slightly, moving between the 3 cruisers. In one instant, the human ship fired precise shots at the engines of the first 2 ships, leaving them disabled. The 3rd ship tried to fire on Orion, but the human crew anticipated its move. They dodged easily, then fired back. The ship exploded in a bright flash, debris spinning into space. On the Empire's flagship, Vorn's face was pale. How can one ship do this?" he whispered. Officers around him began to panic. Some ships attempted to retreat, but the humans anticipated it. They moved to block the escape, striking where it hurt the most. Harper watched calmly as the Zaltrax ships faltered. "Notice how they panic when we stay calm," he said to Clara. "That's what makes humans different. They fear the unknown, but we use it against them." Clara smiled faintly. "They think numbers win fights. They are wrong." The Empire had numbers, size, and weapons far greater than the Orion, but none of it mattered. The humans had precision, patience, and intelligence, and that was more than enough. Orion dodged blasts from multiple ships, striking only where necessary. One cruiser lost its shields entirely. Another had its weapons system disabled. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the Zaltrax officers could only watch in disbelief. "Sir," one officer said, voice trembling, They are controlling the battle without even trying. One ship, one human ship, and we are losing control. Vorn's hands shook as he pressed against the console. They mock us, he whispered. One ship, mocking the Empire. The Orion moved again, slipping between ships like water flowing around rocks. The humans were calm, precise, and efficient. Every movement was measured, every strike was purposeful. They were teaching the Empire a lesson it had never learned. Courage, intelligence, and calm could defeat numbers, power, and arrogance. On the Orion, Harper studied the tactical display. They are learning fear too late, he said. By the time they recover, it will be too late. They will never underestimate humans again. Clara adjusted a course slightly. Do we finish them now? Harper shook his head. No, not yet. We show them control, patience, and precision. They will remember this day longer if they survive enough to see it clearly. Meanwhile, the Empire's fleet struggled. Ships drifted, collided, and fired at the wrong targets. One cruiser accidentally fired on another, thinking it was Orion. Sparks and fire erupted, alarms screamed, and the soldiers screamed with fear. The human ship had caused chaos without firing full force. Vorn's mind raced. He had fought wars across countless systems, commanded fleets, and destroyed entire enemy armadas. And yet here he was, helpless against one human battleship. One simple ship had shattered the confidence, discipline, and pride of the Empire. Signal them again, Vorn roared, desperation in his voice. Tell them to leave. Tell them the Empire will destroy them if they do not. The Orion did not respond immediately. Harper's voice finally came through, calm and unshaken. We do not start fights we do not need. Stand down and survive. Continue, and you will learn why humans are not to be underestimated. Vorn's hands shook as he gripped the console. They mock me, he whispered. Orion moved again, calm and precise, striking only where it mattered. The humans did not destroy everything. They did not need to. They had shown power, precision, and skill. Fear had spread across the Empire fleet faster than lasers or energy blasts ever could. On the Orion, Harper smiled faintly. They will remember this. The lesson is taught, Clara nodded. Not with destruction, but with intelligence. That is how humans fight. That is why they are never underestimated. The Zaltrax fleet was broken. Ships drifted, damaged and confused. Officers whispered to each other, pilots panicked, and even Admiral Vorn began to question everything he had ever known about power, strategy, and victory. One human ship had arrived, decloaked, and in moments had proven that intelligence, courage, and calm could defeat fear, numbers, and arrogance. Orion drifted silently, victorious without shouting, undefeated without rage, and calm without fear. The Empire had learned its first lesson: never underestimate humans. Vorn's heart pounded. He had underestimated humans. He had assumed them weak, simple, and inferior, and he had been wrong. One human ship had turned his mighty fleet into chaos. One human ship had made him fear for the first time in his life. The stars sparkled cold and bright around them, silent witnesses to a human battleship that had decloaked, moved with intelligence and courage, and changed the course of a battle before it even fully started. Orion had shown that one species, brave and clever, could challenge the most powerful fleet in the sector. And deep in Admiral Vorn's mind, a new fear had been born, the fear that humans were something entirely different, something powerful, and something the Empire had never faced before. The Zaltrax Empire's fleet was broken. Ships drifted through space, some damaged, some still trying to move, but all shaken. Pilots shouted over comms, officers argued over orders, and the proud empire that had ruled countless systems now looked weak. One human battleship, simple, unadorned, and calm, had done what no one thought possible. It had shattered the fleet's confidence and shown the Empire something they had never seen before. Humans were not to be underestimated. On the bridge of the Orion, Captain Daniel Harper watched the readings calmly. He leaned against the console, eyes scanning every Imperial ship. Lieutenant Clara Hayes adjusted the tactical display, tracking every movement. "They're trying to regroup again," Clara said quietly. "But they're slow and scattered. It won't work," Harper nodded. "Let them try. They will make mistakes. Humans have patience. They know how to use fear to their advantage. Let them falter." The Orion moved smoothly through the battlefield. It glided between damaged ships, dodging blasts that could have destroyed it. Every movement was careful, calculated, and precise. Orion did not need to fire full power. Its presence alone caused fear. On the Empire's flagship, Admiral Vorn's hands trembled as he looked at the display. Ships were damaged, some drifting helplessly, some colliding accidentally. Officers shouted orders, but they were ignored or followed too late. Even Vorn's voice could not regain control. The humans had taken the fleet's confidence and crushed it. "Focus," Vorn shouted. "Target the human ship, destroy it now." But the Empire could not act effectively. The fleet was scattered, disorganized, and panicked. Some ships fired at Orion and missed completely. Others hit their own ships by mistake. Orion moved calmly, dodging attacks, striking only where it mattered. One precise shot disabled a cruiser's shields. Another hit a destroyer's engines, leaving it drifting helplessly. "Captain," Clara said quietly, "they're trying to escape. They're retreating from our range." Harper did not panic. "Let them move. Humans understand patience. We do not chase fear. Let them learn the lesson we are teaching." The Empire's fleet tried to form a new line, but it was too late. Ships collided, weapons overloaded, and engines failed. Chaos reigned. Orion moved calmly, striking with precision. It did not fire recklessly or destroy everything. It had only shown the power humans could wield, the precision humans could achieve, and the intelligence humans used in battle. Vorn's face was pale. He had studied hundreds of species, commanded fleets, and fought wars across countless systems. And yet one human ship had made him feel powerless. One ship had shattered his fleet, humiliated his officers, and shown that courage, intelligence, and calm could defeat numbers, size, and weapons. "Signal them," Vorn shouted. "Tell them to leave. Tell them the Empire will destroy them if they do not." Harper's calm voice came through the comms. "We do not seek unnecessary war. Leave the battle and survive. Continue to fight, and you will see why humans are not to be underestimated." Vorn's hands clenched. He felt anger, fear, and disbelief all at once. One ship, simple and human, had done what no fleet had ever done before. The Orion had destroyed his pride without even firing at full strength. On the Orion, Harper studied the display. "They have the numbers, but they lack patience, discipline, and calm. That is why humans win." Clara smiled faintly. "They always think numbers are enough. They are wrong." The Orion moved again, carefully positioning itself between the Imperial ships that were trying to regroup. A small, precise volley of fire struck one cruiser's engines. Sparks flew as the ship drifted helplessly. Another shot disabled a destroyer's weapons. Orion had shown them precision, intelligence, and calm. The Empire's ships were beginning to panic completely. Pilots abandoned formation, officers shouted at each other, and confusion spread like fire. Fear had replaced confidence. The humans had not even fought fully, and still, the fleet was in chaos. "Captain," Clara said quietly, "we could destroy the rest of the fleet now." "We have the chance." Harper shook his head. "No, that is not the lesson. Humans do not destroy without purpose. We show control, precision, and patience. That is why the Empire will remember this battle." Orion moved again, dodging blasts from multiple ships, striking only where necessary. One cruiser exploded when its weapons system overloaded. Another drifted helplessly with no engines. Orion had shown the Empire that humans could use calm and intelligence to control the battlefield. Vorn's mind raced. He had led countless fleets, studied strategies across systems, and destroyed enemies with overwhelming force. And yet one human ship had outsmarted him at every turn. The Orion had shown that courage, intelligence, and calm could defeat fear, numbers, and arrogance. "Sir," one officer said, voice trembling, "they are impossible. One ship and we cannot fight them properly. We are losing control." "They are human," Lyra said quietly. "They are different. That is why they are dangerous." The Orion glided calmly between the remaining Imperial ships. Its shields flared as energy blasts struck, absorbing damage easily. Then, in one precise strike, a cruiser's engines failed, leaving it helpless. Another destroyer's weapons went offline. Sparks and fire filled space. Orion had controlled the battle without fully firing its weapons. Vorn's hands shook as he pressed against the console. "They mock us," he whispered. "One ship mocking the Empire." On the Orion, Harper watched the fleet falter. "They panic because we stay calm," he said to Clara. "Humans know how to use fear to teach lessons. That is why we fight differently." Clara nodded. "They will remember today forever." The Empire's fleet tried one last time to regroup. Ships formed a loose line, but it was weak. Pilots ignored orders, ships drifted off course, and officers argued. Orion moved calmly, striking only where necessary. The humans had shown power, precision, and intelligence. Fear had spread faster than energy blasts ever could. Vorn stared at the Orion, pale and shaking. He had underestimated humans. He had assumed they were weak, simple, and inferior. One human ship had shattered his fleet, humiliated his officers, and forced him to realize that humans were not to be underestimated. "Retreat!" Vorn finally shouted, voice cracking. "Pull back! All ships retreat!" Some ships obeyed immediately. Others took longer, still panicked. Orion moved calmly, blocking their escape slightly, striking only where necessary. The humans did not destroy the fleet completely. They did not need to. The lesson had been delivered. One ship, calm, intelligent, and precise, had broken the Empire without unnecessary destruction. Harper watched as the remaining Imperial ships pulled back. "They will remember this," he said quietly. "One day they will never underestimate humans again." Clara smiled. "Not because we destroyed them, because we showed them control, courage, and intelligence. That is how humans fight." Orion drifted silently through space, victorious without shouting, undefeated without rage, and calm without fear. The Empire had learned its first and only lesson: never underestimate humans. Admiral Vorn sank into his chair, mind racing. He had led fleets across countless systems, fought wars, and defeated countless enemies. And yet, one human ship had made him feel powerless. One simple ship had shattered his fleet, humiliated his officers, and shown that courage, intelligence, and calm could defeat numbers, firepower, and arrogance. The stars shone silently around them, witnesses to the calm and unstoppable force of a single human battleship. The Orion had decloaked, moved with precision and intelligence, and changed the course of a battle before it even fully began. Vorn realized he had underestimated humans. He had assumed they were weak, simple, and inferior. One human ship had proved him wrong. One human ship had forced him to retreat and forced the Empire to reconsider everything they thought they knew about courage, intelligence, and battle. On the Orion, Harper smiled faintly. "One ship, one crew, one day. That is enough to teach a lesson." Clara nodded. "They will never forget this. They cannot." The Zaltrax Empire retreated. Their pride shattered, their fleet scattered, their confidence destroyed. The humans had not destroyed them entirely, but they had won. One battleship, calm, clever, and fearless, had changed the course of history. The Orion glided silently through space, decloaked, victorious, and calm. The Empire would never forget the day a human battleship appeared, decloaked, and taught them the lesson of a species that refused to be underestimated. Harper turned to Clara. "This is only the beginning. Humans always fight with intelligence, courage, and patience. Today they learned that lesson the hard way. Tomorrow they will never forget it." The stars sparkled cold and bright, witnesses to humanity's courage, intelligence, and calm. The Orion had arrived, decloaked, and shown the galaxy that humans were not just another species. They were a force to be reckoned with, and somewhere in the heart of Admiral Vorn, fear had taken root. Fear of humans, fear of courage, fear of intelligence, fear of a species that could not be underestimated. The Orion drifted silently into the void, victorious, calm, and unstoppable. One human ship had changed history forever. One human ship had declared that humanity would never be ignored. One human ship had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of. And the Zaltrax Empire, proud and mighty, had learned the hard truth. Humans could not be defeated by numbers, size, or arrogance. They could only be challenged by respect, intelligence, and courage, and the Empire had learned that too late.